You're listening to Through Help and Back. Through Help and Back is a podcast focused on mental health, addiction, treatment, recovery, and all things related to personal improvement and wellness. Don't worry, we're not here to talk about problems without solutions, and we're definitely not here to talk about struggles without success. So come with your problems, leave with our solutions. I always start off with expressing a little bit of appreciation. I really appreciate you making some time for us. I know you're a busy man and you've been doing some traveling, and to make some time for us on a weekend, I know that's your time. So I appreciate you, Glen, for making some time to sit down with us and tell us your story. So thanks so much for that.
Man, you're so welcome. You know, it's a pleasure to be on the opposite side of a story. And that's all really we are really sharing, right?
Absolutely.
So it's just great to be on the opposite side of this. I'll always have time for this type of stuff. And again, we're going to get into the topic of anxiety disorders, panic attacks, and agoraphobia. And it's a very misunderstood condition in my eyes. And, you know, I chased my tail for 10 years. So I'm very, very honored to be here speaking about it and share some light into so many people, the millions of people that need this advice. So.
Yeah, no, it's great. And we were doing the pre-show stuff, and Glen and you and I kind of bonded over the past anxiety experiences and battling that. And so I can't wait to hear your story and share some of mine and get more into that. But right off the bat, I'm up here in New England, and in New England we have a whole collection of different accents. And so I'm sure my listeners are hearing your accent right now, and they're not thinking you're from Boston. So why don't you give us a little background on that accent and where you're from and where you are today?
Yeah, well, I'm sure the Americans are very familiar with the Irish. So we have great history together, still to this day. I'm from right in the epicenter. I am from Dublin. So that's where my accent comes from. I'm born and raised Dublin, Ireland. So
what's it like growing up in Dublin? I've never been. I don't have a clue about what that means to grow up in Dublin.
Dublin is, you know, you do have to have a mindset. You have to be very streetwise. You know, Irish people generally so friendly, so welcoming. I think that's kind of the outlook people have on Irish people. But there is also, like, when you're growing up and you can be in certain areas, you can be introduced to alcohol and drugs at a very young age. In school, there can be bullying, like everywhere really. But in Dublin, it can be very, if you're close to like centrally, you know, it can be quite rough sometimes. And you have to be very streetwise and not necessarily, you know, aggressive or being like, I've never been in a fight in my life, you know, I've never, you know, punched anyone or I did anything like that, but I was always really, really streetwise, really self-aware, really being able to get out of some sticky situations because of how streetwise I was. So you'll find a lot of Irish people who are extremely streetwise, who won't have to engage in any form of violence or anything like that. They'll, you know, they can almost calm situations down before they start. But obviously, maybe that's just mostly my experience. You can get someone off from Dublin and they probably say that, like, they probably have their hands chopped off or something like that, you know. But yeah, it's one of those things, you know, you do have to be, the one word I'd say is just, you got to be streetwise, really.
Well, that just speaks to your smarts, man. If you've never been in a fight, growing up in those environments, it's probably because you get good at stopping trouble before it becomes trouble, you know, and that's a better way of doing it, right? Because, I mean, that's the classic story people like to talk about. I was raised rough and I was fighting every day, and yeah, but you probably weren't, you know, avoiding those situations, you know what I mean? Like, you weren't smart about it. That's how you end up in those types of things. I mean, sometimes you can't avoid it, right? But better to avoid it if you can.
Yeah, funny that you say that's perfectly how I picked up my anxiety disorder from. That's the conditions I lived upon in my house. It was being the guy, I was the oldest of young siblings, and I was always the one to calm things down between my mum and dad. I could always, you know, I was never strong enough to kind of, like, so basically, you know, my father was I wouldn't call it an alcoholic, but when he drank, it was really, really abusive. Not to me, not to the kids. Like, you know, he had a great love for us, but towards my mom, he was very. Once my when I was 7 years old, I experienced my dad basically beating my mum up. And that's where all my anxiety started, really. As I progressed onto that, I kind of I learned how to handle these situations. If my dad was shouting, or I'd be able to just walk in and ask for a cup of tea or something, and it's just killing that conflict. I don't want anything to break out of order here. I'm going to go in and say, what's for dinner today? Or, what you got? Please stop shouting. The kids are crying. Or, if you're going to, I would always, and that kind of is how I defended myself out and becoming, street smart in a way. That's how I escaped situations where there was going to be conflict, or, I'd always find a way to, I guess, to tone that down and say the right things and almost bring peace.
So you're like a mediator. You're like arbitrator and a mediator, and I'm thinking about you at 6 or 7 years old with some adults, and your father when you're 6 or 7 is like always a big, scary, powerful guy, right? Like our dads are just like up here. So was that just kind of a trial and error thing, or did you consciously think like, I got to get involved here to keep mom safe or keep this family together? Like, how did that develop?
Man, Jay, I was destined for agoraphobia. I'll tell you why, because, doing all the psychoanalysis over, like, my first panic attack was age 18. I was like, why the hell has this happened to me? Very, very clear to why it happened. At the age of probably 6 or 7, I don't know the exact age, I remember lying in bed one night and just hearing my mom scream, crying. I could hear the thumps. It was awful. And I went up to, I guess, open the door to my mom's bedroom, and I couldn't. And I stayed outside, and I was thinking, well, I'd go down and get a knife or something like that, But something stopped me from going into that room. And I'm glad something stopped me, because it's not visual now. It was all, what I heard. So I went back to bed as a kid and just slept, cried myself to sleep. The next morning I woke up. I always had my mom as a young age give me a kiss, and she'd always like bless me with holy water and say, have a good day in school, off you go. She didn't do that. I could see the bit of blood, and it really sucked. And then I had to go to school with this guy. He walked me to the train station. He was just walking ahead of me, and I was just like, I'm not fucking walking with you, And as I can say back now, like, he wasn't the worst person. People might think, geez, what a bastard, like, what a, no, but there's two sides to every coin. And my mom had me at age 16. So you're looking at back then, a 21-year-old mom and dad fighting, compared to if they were 40, probably this stuff wouldn't happen. They were kids as well. So you got to look at that as well. So he wasn't the worst person in the world. I'm not going to sit here and slate him. He made a horrible mistake, which he's actually passed away, and I'm sure he regretted that to the day he died. But also after that physical abuse, it never happened again. It was always verbal, and that continued for years. So that happened age 6 to 7, and then my whole mindset shifted towards one of almost having a codependent relationship to my mom, where it was like from ages 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, up to age 15, maybe even 16, pushing it. I never stayed in anyone's house. Couldn't stay in my friend's house. Couldn't stay in my granddad's house anymore, or my nanny's house. I would always cry in the middle of the night to go home to my mother.
Somebody's got to keep an eye on her. Somebody's got to watch her.
Absolutely. And I always felt like I couldn't. It took me to age 25 to stop sleeping with the TV on, because when I was younger, I used to just hear the constant trauma of my mom screaming and the thumps and stuff like that. So yeah, it was awful. So I was kind of destined for agoraphobia at some point. So time just went on, Jay, and everything was fine. I think I got a girlfriend around age 16, and as you know, I guess the power of love kind of takes over that emotion of fear sometimes. And a young relationship, my first love, and I started to stay in her house, and that was already breaking the cycle then. So then age 16, 17, 18, everything was just suppressed. Everything was suppressed. Never thought about it. had lots of good experience with my father as well, and everything was. If you asked me, was my childhood great? I'd say I had a great childhood. I remember a therapist asked me that, and she was like, "How did you find your childhood?" I was like, "It was great." And then after an hour speaking to him, she was like, "Glenn, you didn't have a good childhood," you know. But yeah, 18, I'll get into how the panic starts. So that's the origin of it.
Yeah.
But the actual panic attack that I'd never had before started when I was in Lanzarote with an ex-girlfriend, and the first night we went there, we were supposed to go for 2 weeks. Yeah, right. That wasn't going to work out. The first night we get into, she fell asleep at like 2 a.m. and I was awake watching TV, and I just had this feeling come over me like I'd never experienced before in my life. I thought I was dying.
Yep. Hands, chest, head, everything. I mean, is it washing over your entire body, or you say that that feeling you never had? What was that feeling?
It was a complete feeling of helplessness and almost paralysis. I was like, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't. And then, of course, who do I ring? My mom.
Mom. Yep. Time to call mom.
Rang my mom. Yeah. I called my mom. Didn't think she was going to be awake, but obviously just the difference is 1 hour. So in Spain, in Lanzarote, was like an hour or two ahead of Irish time. So I called her. She was awake, and I said, "Mom, I don't know what's wrong." I said, "I just have this feeling I need to come home. I don't know what it is." So my heart keeps beating. My mom actually struggled with some panic attacks in 1999. She lost her mom, which was my nanny. I was 9 years old, which was her mother, my grandma, and she experienced very high panic attacks and some agoraphobia in her life too for a small couple of years. And immediately my mom said, "Glenn, you're having a panic attack." And to me, I was always a very, very calm person.
Yeah, you had to be.
I think a lot of people can say that.
Well, you had to be, right? Because there was a lot of chaos around you. And so you have to be the one to calm it down.
Exactly. And externally, very calm. But inside, 50-50. Sometimes calm, sometimes like, I need to be, I'm on edge here. So I was like, "Man, what are you talking about? A panic attack? I don't panic." And I remember saying those words. And she says, "It's a panic." I never heard the word anxiety in my life. I definitely didn't hear the word panic attack in my life at age 18. Anyway, I decided to try see out the day, and I didn't. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I went into depersonalization, derealization for like 24 hours. And I just remember just getting on the flight. I just wanted to go home. I needed to figure this, and I kind of knew it because I had a feeling I need to go home to my mom. I'm like, why at age 18 as a, I guess, grown adult? Why do I have a feeling I need to go home to my mom? And then it brought me back to the like.
Well, I was going to say maybe it's less about you feeling like you need your mom and worrying that your mom needed you. You know, that distance from mom at that time was still a very unsafe thing, because even though, you said the abuse stopped and the verbal abuse continued, once that happens, especially in an environment that's supposed to be safe, like your family, once it's on the menu, so to speak, it's happened. I know it's out there. It's a constant threat from then on. Is this the day when it goes back, right? And that distance from mom seems to be a key feature for sure. So whether it was you need mom or mom need you, something got in there that said we have to reconnect. We have to check on each other. So
yeah, spot on. This wasn't always about me. It was both. It was a bit of both. I think my mom loved my company over there. That. Because she always knew I was intervening in ways that would de-escalate things. I think my mom realized that.
You were saving her. Yeah, you were saving her. Who knows? If you're not there, it continues to escalate. Who knows where it ends up?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so, I have my first panic attack, and I go home on a Sunday, and I literally just started like completely just in complete DPDR, depersonalization, derealization, complete panic, shaking on the bed. I was like, my mom's like, "Okay, we're going over to get a doctor's appointment on the Monday." I went out to the doctor's appointment, and I told them what happened. And literally at age 18, here's antidepressants. I remember how the conversation went. I'm like, "Antidepressants?" I was like, "Oh, no, I'm not depressed."
Right.
He says, "Oh, no, this is, it's not for depression. It's for to treat your panic attacks," stuff like that. And didn't give me any information on like, okay, here's what happened. Here's what fight and flight is. Here's what panic is. It can't harm you. It can't this. And I was saying, like, I think I'm dying. I don't want to leave the house. But I was just prescribed some medication. On I went, and yeah, it lasted for 10 years, age 18 to age 28. I mean, we could sit here and talk for hours about this, Jay. Trying to break this down into as much as possible. We're trying to break this down into the key components of it.
Did you take the med? Did you take the meds all that time?
For 10 years, I took the antidepressants for around 8 years out of 10. I recovered med-free. So,
sure. Yeah, I think the medication thing is always so interesting because I think the research is pretty clear that it can play a role and it can help. But the scenario you described, without any insight, without any talk therapy, without any education, just the magic pills, that doesn't seem to go too well. So it's not surprising that you're saying you were sort of just taking pills for 8 years and not seeing a lot of relief because there was none of that supportive work that would support your progress. Just take the pill and pow, and it can help, but it doesn't stand alone. It doesn't stand alone.
100%, and it can be great in combinations. It's not you don't just take medication, just sit in and wait for things to happen. And I'll sit here and say, like, I am not against medication whatsoever. I'm not. There's a lot of people that benefit from it. There's a lot of people that doesn't. And that's the way it is. There's a lot of people that benefit from meditation and yoga and giving up alcohol, and some people just don't. That's the way it is. And that's the way it's always going to be.
Well, and if you want to change your body, you wouldn't just take a vitamin, right? Like you have to take a vitamin and work out, change your diet, the behavioral changes, things like that, right? It's like, no, just take a Flintstone vitamin and you'll feel better. Like, nah, it doesn't really work.
Yeah. I'm not going to go to the gym, but like I want to lose weight.
Yeah, magic pill.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, I'm thinking about that. So you're 18 years old. You have a getaway with your girlfriend, right? You come back. Did she come back with you? Like, did she fly back?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was good, supportive. And I mean, I'm just wondering. So now you're coming back to a new reality. Like, hey, this is part of my existence now. I know I have this vulnerability. I've got this pill. So how did life change in the immediate, knowing you were capable of these panic attacks now?
Like many people, just overnight, just complete wipeout. I was in college actually trying to be a paramedic and fireman, and I was excelling in that. Just about to complete the first year. I had a little part-time job, and then obviously the relationship that I had. Within a week, it was all gone. No relationship, gave up the part-time job, literally ran out of work with a panic attack and never came back. Didn't even call them. Just never went back to them. Went into college one day and I had the BA, the apparatus on for the fire training. And, a lot of time I'd get asked to be team leader where you like it's complete. They put like black tape over your mask. And it's like you're basically practicing for being in black smoke. And, you're the start and people are holding on to you and there's tables in front of you and you're trying to crawl under them. You're making sure there's no little holes. I used to do that and I used to ace it. And the second I put that on, I was like, get this off me now. Everything went off. Everyone in the class was like, didn't know what was wrong. The people, obviously the adults, the teachers there knew exactly, like, especially the firemen who were training us, like, I was having a panic attack. And I explained to them, this is what happened. I'm having these panic episodes since I came back last week from my, being to my doctor. He says I'm having panic attacks, and he brought me into this little room and he said, like, they were almost better than the doctor that I went to. And they said, listen, he says, you take as much time off as you need. This course is always here for you. You can take a year out if you want. You can come in any day you want. And they were great. Then there was a 45 commute to college. And that just got tougher and tougher and tougher. And then the one thing that keeps people in the disorder start to kick in, avoidance. I stopped playing football. I stopped working out. Anything that got my heart rate up, I was terrified. So a complete shift and change in my life. And I just became very housebound. Even with my mom going to work, I was like, man, please don't go to work today. I said, I'm having intrusive thoughts that, I didn't even use the word intrusive. I didn't even know what intrusive thought was. I said, Mom, I'm having these thoughts that like, what if I can't handle a panic attack and you come home and I'm dead on the floor? My mom says, panic attacks ain't gonna do anything like that, Glen, trust me. It was just awful. Like, yeah, completely life changing. And that was for 10 years, you know. It was obviously wasn't as bad for 10 years. It settles down a little bit. But the funny thing, the crazy part is like how something abnormal starts to just become so normal in your life. And that's the killer. Like, I went 10 years unemployed. I never got a job again for 10 years. 10 years, you know, on benefits over in Ireland. Every time I tried to get a job, I wouldn't last longer than a week. I'd run out and just never come back. And then I just, you know, you have this, people with panic attacks and agoraphobia and these types of disorders, they have a mentality of, I'll do it when I get better. It's like, you gotta get better in order to do it. You know, you gotta push yourself. You gotta be very proactive in these disorders, very, very proactive. But that's just a little bit, if you want to touch in, that's just the start of it. I mean, there's plenty more, but if you want to have a little say on that, like, jump in anywhere you want, Jay.
No, it's interesting. One, I appreciate your honesty and candor. I think one thing that we have to acknowledge with this is some of the gender roles that pop up in this, right? Like, you're a fireman, you're training to be a fireman, you're an athlete, you know, you're the oldest son, the oldest overall. There's a lot of pressure to be tough and gut it out and just deal with it. You know what I mean? Put your head down and just get through it. And you know, and I had all that working in my background when I kind of went through this as well. And I think it's hard for people to understand that when you're in the midst of an actual panic attack or the heightened state of physiology that will lead to a panic attack, there is no gutting it out. There is no just sucking it up. And I'm sure you had these thoughts where you wanted nothing more than to just outwork it or just think through it or just push through it. And it's not even a capability during that time. I mean, it's not even one of the things that are at your disposal. I mean, when you can't breathe, and your hands feel like there's electric shocks going down and your breaths are, you know, and your chest is so tight. I shared with you before, like, I used to have this compulsive habit of checking my pulse just to prove to myself that it was, you know, blood was still going through my body. That's what level of functioning you're dealing with. So to get to this place and to be able to share that openly, because I'm sure at that time there was some shame and some embarrassment and some, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just figure this out? So I don't know. I mean, we'll talk about your other progress, but I think just getting to the place where you can share so openly, I think is going to be so helpful to people to hear that, you know. Before we go on, I want to say a few words about Anew Behavioral Health. Anew Behavioral Health is an outpatient provider of mental health and substance abuse services in Ohio and New Hampshire. That means that Anew can successfully treat mental health and substance abuse issues or dual diagnosis if you're struggling with both. Their integrated approach allows for them to successfully address issues related to anxiety, depression, addiction, trauma, and really anything that stands between your life and the life you could be living. You really cannot bring them an issue that they have not successfully treated. They have also solved one of the biggest problems for people seeking help. They have a dedicated team waiting to hear from you at helpnow@anewbh.com. If you contact them today, within 24 hours, you will have heard back from, wait for this, a real live person, and will also have your first appointment scheduled at that time. So how do you contact them? Well, if you're in Ohio or New Hampshire, you're probably close to one of their local locations. You're welcome to go in. If not, you can always reach them online at anewbh.com. And if you're interested in services for you or loved one, use that address, helpnow@anewbh.com. And then the other thing I think about is the way you're describing it is almost like a prison sentence, you know? Like, hey, I went in at 18, you know, I got out at 28, you know, life kept changing for people and moving around me, and I'm not working. I'm not keeping up with the changes in the world. I'm not developing my own life. And so, unlike prison where you have sort of like the day you go in and the day you go out, I wonder about your progress. Did you have good times? Did you have times where you were functional, or was this 10 years on the bench and it only got worse during that 10 years? Like, what was the progression like?
Yeah, the progression is going to be interesting to speak about. I think that's a perfect way to take the next step in this conversation. So, you know, you have my first stage is like, what's wrong with me? Like, I need to figure this out. So I went to the library every day. Anxiety book. Keep taking me antidepressant pills. Keep going to general therapy, all this type of stuff. I just became obsessed with it. I have to eat healthy now. I have to eat this. I have to eat that. I can't have that. I can't have that sugar. There must be something wrong with my body. It's my mind. It's something. And yeah, it got worse. And then that's when I gave up football. I remember being at training one day and just having these heart palpitations. I was like, there's something wrong with my heart. And then I actually had a manager whose son died of cardiac arrest on a football field from a heart condition, which I didn't have a heart condition. I had anxiety and panic. So it was completely different. And this man was so kind. He was like, so he had connections to the cardiologist because they're who looked after his son. And he took me in I should have been waiting for a year to get to see the cardiologist. Less than a week. He brought me in his car, brought me into the cardiologist that he knew. And here I was at age 18, running on a treadmill like I'm in one of those 50 Cent videos with all the things hooked up to me. And after that, then literally within the hour, full bill of health, he's by a cardiologist, like specialist, 30, 40 years being trained on the heart, says, Glen, your heart is absolutely fine. You're 100% able to go back playing football. I couldn't even accept that.
Yeah.
Because that night I had a panic attack. Yeah. Must have missed something. Because I thought that would reassure me that, okay, well, there's nothing wrong with me, so I'll stop having panic attacks. There's nothing to being reassured about my heart. There was a trauma there. There was something that conditioned me to act like this for many years without me knowing, that I repressed, and it's all coming out now. It's not going to take one little treadmill journey by a cardiologist to tell me, okay, everything's cool. It wasn't going to work like that for me. I had a journey to go on, and off I was on the journey. So then, I did get back playing football, but not so soon. So age 18, 19, 20, and 21 were actually quite hectic for me with going out with friends and drinking alcohol. No drugs involved. Luckily enough, my mom always, because I actually come from with my uncles and aunties, stuff like that. My auntie passed away from drug addiction. My uncle passed away from drug addiction. So my mom very sheltered us from that and always made us know. So very lucky that it didn't go down the road of drugs. But alcohol, alcohol was one for me where it took the edge off. But the next morning, oh my God, it was like a truck hit me, and it was just awful. So from ages probably 18 to 21, probably, I don't think I spent one weekend indoors, like watching a movie with family or getting a takeaway or something. Every weekend for 3 years, I'd be out drinking, and in Ireland, that's so common. There was literally nothing wrong with that. No one questioned it. I didn't question it because everyone else around me done it. That is what happens. And if you're living in Ireland, that's it. I wasn't a problem drinker. Wasn't even close to being an alcoholic. I was just a young kid enjoying some nights out. But I did feel the alcohol was like, at the start, like, it was masking the anxiety.
Sure. Of course.
But anyway, as time went on, I remember being 24 at the time, just touching 23, 24, and I gave up alcohol. Still to this day, I'm 33 next month, so I'll be 9 years alcohol free without even a drop of drink. And that's still the biggest blessing. The biggest blessing. Like, of all that 10 years of, I can only describe as torture, really. Best decision of my life. So that was brilliant. That's a great thing that came from it, along many other things that we'll get into. But I remember then getting back playing football, and I remember saying to my manager, I said, listen, I struggle in cars. I can't get to away matches. My manager will always put me in the front seat with him, have me play me meditation, and it'd be just me and him in the car, maybe one or two other lads, depending, people who knew me and stuff like that. And I was, for a full year, I missed 2 football matches. And that was because the journey was a journey. It was an away match around 40 minutes away, and my mum wasn't at home that day, so I avoided going. Just because my mum wasn't home, she wasn't coming to the match. She wasn't, none of that.
But you didn't know where she was. Couldn't keep an eye on her. She wasn't cared for. Yeah.
So I didn't go to the match that day. And I missed 2 matches that week, that year. And that was the best year of my life with anxiety. So I thought I was recovered. I didn't have much agoraphobia. You know, if you asked me to go on a plane, hell no. But, you know, I was making, at least getting in cars and buses and stuff like that. And then after that, I remember getting to a really good point, and I had a really great football season that time, and I got picked up by a very highly talented football team. And, you know, they scouted me and brought me up, Sheriff they're called, and they were absolutely excellent. And I went training for them and played some matches and was banging in goals, and it came to the first match of the season and I never showed up. Just didn't show up. And I remember after that it was just a downward spiral. I just went into myself. I couldn't believe I was 5 years deep into this. All my friends were moving to Australia. Had partners, some were having kids, and it kind of just hit me like, geez, I'm 25 now and I have nothing. And I just sunk deeper and deeper and deeper. My little brother got a job. My sister got a job. And here I am, the oldest, and I don't have a job. I'm feeling so demasculated. My brother's in college. My sister's working. All this is happening. And now they're starting to like have some drinks and going out the weekend. And I'm at home watching, you know, an old black and white movie and Murder, She Wrote in Colombo with my mom on a Saturday night, you know, so it was that right there, you know, so yeah. And then you know, back then I was like 23, 24, and, you know, tried to go on dates with girls, and that just ain't going to work out. You know, can we meet in this restaurant? I'm like, I heard that restaurant isn't actually nice. There's actually a nice one out my way. You know, it's basically a McDonald's and it's a shithole, but like, it's close to home. So, you know, I heard this is good. So a lot of that manipulation in a way that's like, obviously from not a narcissistic point of view. It was a protection
survival.
A survival mechanism, yeah. So a lot of that. And there's repercussions for those things in life. Eventually at the time I just realized, fucking just lying all the time. No wonder no one, even my brothers are picking up on it. I was supposed to be the so-called man of the house, and people looking up to me and like, this is just not the way it's going.
Do you think with the, I was going to ask, well, you're talking about your brothers and sisters. So how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 2 younger brothers and a younger sister.
Okay. So of the 3, do any of the rest of them suffer from this or deal with anxiety or nothing? Clean slate?
Absolutely nothing. My sister had her first panic attack this time last year on a flight coming home. And I told her about it, like, this is what to do. And within 3 weeks, she's back on a plane.
Do you think on some level, because a lot of your early trauma came from you assuming a protective role, right? Protective over your mom, protective over your brothers and sisters, I assume. Do you wonder on some level if it almost didn't work? And what I mean by that is like they are free to have those lives without those problems because you took them on, almost like you took the hits for them. Have you ever thought about that?
Yes, and I took a lot of pride in that. It's something that I thought when I was around 26, 27, thinking about that type of thing, like, because I'd look and like I remember my brother. So I have my sisters. I'm going to be 23. My sister's 28. My brother's 26, and my little brother is turning 21 in 2 weeks. And my brother, just not my youngest, my middle brother, he was 26 at the time, would have been probably around 19 and stuff like that. And he just like, the minute he'd hit the pillow, I was like, that's it. It's done. The guy would snore the house down. And I'd always think like, I never had that in my life. I could never put my head on a pillow and fall asleep like that. And I'm like, I'm so glad that he didn't have to witness what I would.
Yeah, you were standing guard.
Yeah.
And so, exactly. And because you were doing that, they were free to do that. I mean, it's just an observation. I wonder if, you know, as you look back on it, because when there's households full of trauma, and I mean, in your story, we're hearing abuse, whether you call it alcoholism or not, there's drinking, there's the, you know, your mom is struggling and suffering, right? So I'm sure that, you know, impacted you. I'm hearing a lot of loss too. Like I lost this family member to drugs, and we lost this person. I mean, so there's a lot of things you guys had to deal with, and it just the story that is kind of emerging is that like Glen is like, I'll take it. Give it to me. I'll wrestle with it. Right. You go play, you go have a childhood. I'll watch Murder, She Wrote and sit next to mom and I'll stand guard.
Pretty much.
So there's some pride in that. Well, not a good experience for you, but there's some pride in being the person who took that on. I mean, that does say a lot about you that you were willing to do that. You maybe didn't know what you were signing up for, but it had a real impact. So,
yeah, I think many of us, would be even for you and your kids and your wife, and things like that. It's like you become sacrificial in a way because of them. It's me before them, and that's the way it is. And even still to this day, now I realize that's a very powerful part of my personality. It ain't no weakness. It's a very noble thing. And still to this day, I put myself in that situation sometimes.
Yeah. It's one of those classic, what it means to be a man kind of thing. You take the hits, you have the hellish day at work. You grab a couple of drinks on your way home. And then when you get to the door, you take a deep breath and you walk in with a smile, acting like everything's okay. So the kids don't have to worry,
How many times do men do this type of stuff,
Millions. I mean, I the old joke is there needs to be a support group for men, but nobody would show up, right? Because you have to admit that you need a support group. But dad is a tough job. Man is a tough job, and in all this. And there's no commentary here. There's no position, but in all this commentary on, gender roles and sort of the attack on traditional roles, and I'm all for progress. I'm all for change, but I do think we need to be careful not to lose some of that solid backbone. There's a better way to do it, right? There's support, and you talking about this is evidence of that, and people going to therapy is evidence of that. This podcast is evidence that we're having better conversations around mental health and support, but. Damn it, there's just still something to being a man that matters,
100%. And I was totally demasculated with this. Totally demasculated. For a man not to have a job and not be able to hold down a relationship, whether that's sexually or whatever.
Yeah, brutal.
That stings. It stings, man, And, I learned a lot about masculinity, and there's always going to be a touch of me that I almost have like an 80-20 rule where 80% masculine, 20% is that feminine touch that I'll probably always have. And I'm quite proud to have that little bit there. It helps my relationships. It helps, that type of thing. And it's my nature also as well. But the nature of, like, I'll get into it more when I start training and working out. Oh my God, it's almost saved me. It is what saved me. I'll get deeper into it. But I remember one thing, I know there's going to be a lot of women watching this as well. Like you look at the anxiety coaches on, they portrayed how I also portray myself on Instagram. There's so many women, and in their bio will say literally, "I only help women." And for whatever reason that is, I don't know. But it just seems to be basically what I'm getting onto is that there's more help for women, than there is for men. And I just love telling my story about like the weakness I had. I was so weak. I was such a lying piece of shit. I don't want to use the word weak. I've never described myself as weak, and I will never do so. But I felt weak. I was so demasculated. And I remember hearing on a podcast recently, and I remember it really stuck with me. Let me get the quote right. And it was something along the lines of like, a rich woman will never look down on a poor man and say, I want to take you on and, make you rich with me.
Yeah.
But a rich man will take that woman on and build her up and, make her financially or whatever, that success. A rich woman would never look at a poor man that way, the way a rich man would look at a woman. And that for me was so profound. And, that's kind of don't want to put too much emphasis on that, but that was a quote that really stuck with me as I learned about this about men, that like there's absolutely no weakness in having panic disorders and panic attacks and agoraphobia and, being unemployed for long periods of time. This is life. This is life. And there's ways out of literally every situation in life. There's ways out.
That's right. Well, the weakness is taking it home and hiding with it and not addressing it. Right. I mean, that's, what's that quote? What's the bravest thing a man can say? And that's, I need help, because you have to overcome all of that gender stuff and put yourself out there and go, no, I need help. And that's brave, because if you say I need help, it's the opposite of giving up. It means, no, I'm ready to get my resources together, learn about this, get the support I need, and engage in this situation. I'm not hiding from it anymore. So I need help so that I can face it.
Yeah, 100%.
And you've been there. You went through that. Yeah. You went through that process. You lived it. Who am I talking to about this? You lived it.
Yeah. It's way too long. Institutionalized with it. Jay, I'm sure you're going to be familiar with this from a therapist side of things. So I remember going to a therapist one day, and she said, after working with her for about 10 weeks, she says, Glenn, I think you need to heal your inner child. And I was about 23 at the time. I was like, I literally walked out of that place and felt like, what the I'm not going back there. My inner child? What are you talking about? Saturday night I went out and had a couple of beers with the lads.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, inner child? She's so right. I did need to heal my inner child. Absolutely. But back then, I was saying at the 22, 23-year-old lad, I was just like, that's a bit it's a bit too much. Like, come on, like. But
the phrasing too is really flowery.
The phrasing of it, yeah.
Right, heal your inner child's tough for a guy. Say like, I need, you've had some past hurts and you need to face those, you need to address those, or we need to hear from the younger Glen and see what he has to say about the situation. What would 9-year-old you say? What would 12-year-old you, 13-year-old you? That's a little different than like, let's sit cross-legged and hold hands and heal our inner children. That's a little tough.
Hug teddy bears, like fall asleep with them, that actually works for some people,
Sure, yeah, no judgment. Back on track with your story, man, because I want to, I'm following this along, and it's like a book, right? So now we're like 24, 25, and what's astounding to me is, from a clinical perspective, I'm looking at your story, and it's like, okay, I have these panic attacks, life shrinks. But then I'm hearing your story. You're going out with friends, you're drinking, you're on a soccer team, you're traveling, it looked like life was expanding, and then boom, like quick, it went back the other way. So what changed? Like, why did it go in the other direction so fast from your experience?
I can't say what made me stop playing football. I don't know. I just went into a complete shell, and this just got worse. And here's where the story gets. This is where it hits rock bottom. Is the last 4 to 5 years of my disorder, from age 24, 25ish to like 28. Man, I was ringing ambulances to my house. Every time I had a panic attack, so ironically, there's a fire brigade station that's 5 minutes away from me. I was banging down their door multiple times a night, thinking I'm having a heart attack. They would bring me up to the emergency room. I'd get sent home, and within a couple of hours, I'd repeat. Back home, I'd repeat. Why would I repeat? Because every time I was close to medical help, I had no anxiety. So for the first time in my life, I learned, when I'm close to medical help, I have no anxiety. Better stay close to this. So I actually started cycling my bike up towards a hospital every morning I woke up. So it was becoming like a compulsive type of OCD type of trait. Every morning I'd wake up. Sometimes what I'd do I started to sleep in my clothes, because I'd wake up with panic attacks, and I would be literally thinking I'm on the verge of a heart attack, Jay. So my destination is, I need to get 5 minutes to that fire brigade station, because when I'm there, I'll be okay. So after I first couple of panic attacks, without sleeping in my clothes, I'd be like, get the hoodie on, get this on. And then I was on cycling my bike over there and knocking in. So I said, well, what's a quicker way? I'm going to sleep in my clothes. So that was a rough couple of weeks, doing those types of behaviours. I remember ringing an ambulance to my house and locking into my mum, knocking on her door. Like, poor woman's up for fucking work 3 hours. I'm there knocking in at 4 o'clock in the morning. Man, I'm not calling an ambulance again. She's like, Glenn, you're wasting their time. I said, dude, nothing's going to happen to you. You have panic attacks for 8 years now, nothing's going to happen. But I was now realising that I'm a 26, 27-year-old man, and I've done nothing with my life. and it was eating my soul, Jay. That's the only way I can describe it. This was eating me from the inside, and I could no longer take that anymore. This grew into a beast, you know. It was a little dragon. It was a little dragon. If I conquered it, I could have killed that slate, that little dragon all those years ago. Now this is a big motherfucker, and I'm up against this big ass dragon, man. And yeah, that's the way it went. And I was doing all these behaviors. It was the behaviors that were keeping me stuck, Jay. So in the last 4 years, last 3.5 years, maybe from age 25 to age 28, Jay, my agoraphobia was so bad, I did not go further than 3 miles from home for 3.5 years. I missed out on my friends' birthday parties. I missed out on Mother's Days. I missed out on my siblings' birthdays. I missed out on everything, absolutely everything I missed out on. And that just kept eating my soul, eating me from the inside. I went down to 59 kilograms. So I think, what's that, 140 pounds, would it be?
I'm American. I don't know
less.
that. I don't know. It could be like 400 pounds for me. I don't know, 59 kilograms. It's like 2.2, right? Is that what I'm supposed to do? Like multiply it by 2.2? Look at that.
Man, I have no idea.
My producers are nodding. Look at that. I stumbled into that one. Yeah. So that's not, yeah. So 140 pounds. So you're not working out.
140 pounds.
Yeah, you're not nurturing yourself in any way. So you're just wasting, right? Like you're serving time.
I'm living.
What is it?
120 pounds.
130. All right.
Yeah. So here I am, man.
That's like one of Ian's quads now. That's like 130 pounds.
Yeah, probably, man. Yeah.
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 Gotcha.
His calf.
Yes.
So here I am, man. I sit in this doctor's office and
in hell. You're trapped.
I'm living on breakfast cereal to stay alive. And maybe an odd banana. I couldn't hold down a decent meal because the stress and the panic was eating everything.
Your cortisol's off the charge. Everything's churning. Yeah. You've got adrenaline going left and right. Yeah. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And I was just a complete shell of a person who I am today. You know, I'm 33 soon. And if I could show you pictures of when I was 24, you'd say I look 35 then. And I probably look a bit younger now. It's crazy, man. And I have some of those pictures on my Instagram account. I remember my friend saying to me, she says, because when I recovered, and I actually went to see her there around a year ago when I come back, she was a very great friend of mine, played a great part of my healing journey. I'll go on to that again. She says, Glen, I remember we were going to the mindfulness meditation class, and she said, I remember you turning up, and she was like scared. She was like, it looked like your head was too big for your body. I have a little pea head, so you can only imagine. So scary times. So yeah, that was at my absolute lowest. I was engaging in all these compulsive behaviors, and
And what you said scary times, Glenn. Were you scared during that time, or were you just surviving? Had that become normal, and you're like, this is just life, or were you like actually aware, like I'm not in a good place, and this is getting scary, like during that time?
This is getting worse.
You felt it, okay?
Yeah, this is getting worse. This is eating me alive now. I've never had like major depression from it. I never had, you'll always, with anxiety disorders and panic attacks, you'll always have sometimes with very low mood and up again and down again. But this was like, I'm fucking worried about myself. I mean, I've fallen asleep barely, waking up at 1 p.m., 2 p.m. in the day. Sometimes I wake up at 8 a.m. in the morning and fall back asleep to 1 p.m. in the day. I had no routine. I didn't know what the word discipline was. I had nothing. And here's how my journey starts to heal. Absolutely crazy. And you could actually possibly direct a movie on this. I am living on my road, my neighborhood in Dublin. And I know everyone on the street. This is an elderly couple in their 80s and get along great with them. One day I'm walking along and I have my yoga mat and I'm going to trust me, I ain't going far. I'm going to my local park.
About 2.5 miles away, right?
Yeah, probably less at this time.
You can't go
Here I am
miles.
having a yoga mat, yeah. I remember the old lady, Bridie, her name is, she stops and says, she's from the country of of Ireland. She's like, where are you going with the yoga mat? And I was like, oh, Brody, I do yoga down the park. She's like, oh, sure, my son Sean does that. I'm like, I didn't know he had a son. She's like, oh yeah, he's traveling. He traveled in India. He used to do all the meditation and the yoga. I was like, that's amazing. And she's like, yeah, he's coming home. He lives in London now, and he's coming home. And I was like, Brody, I'd love to chat with him. I was always big into meditation. I thought meditation was going to heal me. Like, meditation is a great tool, but for my disorder, meditation ain't going to change my behavior. And I was stuck in a terrible behavioral condition. Anyway, here's how this guy that came into my life is what I do for people in my coaching. This guy was like, why not get into this, man? Anyway, I don't know what the hell this guy looks like. I just know his name is Sean. I'm walking along one day and I see this guy walking towards me. And he just looks like his dad. And I just stopped this guy and I was like, is your name Sean? And you get that a lot of time where if you ever travel to Ireland, people are just so, like Irish people just, they'll just stop and talk to you. So a lot of Irish people have that, they'll just talk. And I said, is your name Sean? He's like, yeah. I was like, you look so like your dad. I'm actually, I live on your mum and dad's road, and I was talking to your mum the other day. She said you were coming home, and I'm big into the yoga, and I heard you were in India. And basically, we stood there for about 10, 15 minutes, and he just turns around and says, let's meet up one day and have a coffee and talk about it. Like, okay, great. Meet up one day, and obviously the sufferer of panic attacks has a panic attack.
Yeah, in front of him.
And he noticed straight away. He says, are you having a panic attack? He says, no, you haven't. You feeling anxious?
You're like, no, I just drink my coffee like this. This is just how I drink it.
Yeah.
Spilling.
I know. This is a dance move. Watch. This is just a dance move. And so we walk out and we walk home, and he tells me his story. Glen, I had businesses running in London. I had to give them all up. Went through a horrible break with my girlfriend, and he said he suffered from panic attacks for 4 years. And I was like, Jesus. I said, I'm in my 9th year with this fucking thing. And I was, this is when I was in a really dark place. I was calling ambulances to my house 2 times a week.
Sleeping in your clothes.
They were sick of me. I think they were going to put like a restraining order on me, and so I'm like, this fucker, next time he calls, just don't show up. There's a law in Ireland that you actually can't do that. I know they do in other countries, so thank God. I would have been blacklisted way, way long before that.
There's communities, just to talk on that for a second, there's communities here in America that are changing that for drug overdoses. It's a very controversial policy, but it's sort of a 3 strikes and you're out kind of thing. They'll go to one specific home 2 or 3 times for overdoses, and after that, it's like, if you're not going to stop, you're not going to stop. So good thing they didn't have that in place for you.
Situation, yeah, because I would have been blacklisted a long time ago. Probably would have done me good because it would have stopped my compulsions, but they didn't take any chances on it. So I started doing that, and then I remember talking to Sean and became attached. Oh, this is the person who understands. So I remember one night, this is one night after I met him. I got home to my house, and he lives like literally 10 doors down. He's staying at home looking after his elderly parents, okay? Which is the reason he came home for. And I remember calling the ambulance one night, and I just said, I hung up. And here I was bawling my eyes, crying, like just tears. I couldn't stand it. I was like, I'm knocking down. So I knock on an elderly couple's door who are 80 years of age at 4 a.m. in the morning. And, she opens the door, and I'm like, Brody, I'm so sorry. I'm just wondering if I could speak to Sean. And then she says, oh, come in, you okay? I was like, oh, I just can't do this anymore. Can't do this. Just completely just broke down. And she's like, I'm so sorry for coming down. She's like, you knock at this door whenever you want. Sean came down then, and here we go, make a cup of tea, talk about everything. And I left at like probably 9 a.m. Stayed talking for 4 or 5 hours. He took me under his wing, and he guided me through. And so basically Sean is a dude. He's very highly intellectual. He had his own business running, traveled the world, knows like 6, 7 languages off by heart. Not a guy I'm used to being around. I'll tell you that for one thing, completely opposite of the people I was around. And every time I'd knock down to him constantly. He was my new ambulance. He was my new fire brigade station. Not once. I'd knock in at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 6 a.m., 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m. Not once did he ever say, like, or have any body language of, like, for fuck's sake, man, Jesus Christ. He was always come in. He'd always had the 7-Up ready for me. You know, the sugar would take away he'd always be very, you know, because he knows, he's been through it. Anyway, he says, Glenn, listen, we're going to have to get on top of this. He says, it kills me to see you like this. He says, he used to always call me a rough diamond. He says, you remind me so much of myself. And I'll tell you how I got over it. He says, Glenn, I remember one day I was suffering from so bad anxiety. And one day I was in London. I needed to take a piss. He says, Glenn, I swear to God, he says, I need to take a piss. And I'd never stop and piss somewhere. I would now. I'd just go to a tree and just take it out and have a slash.
Right.
But this guy wouldn't. So he said, I sprinted home to my apartment for like 15 minutes and had a leak. And after that, then he remember he's sitting down. He had generalized anxiety disorder all day. And he sits down after that intense 15-minute jog / sprint. And I was like, you remember noticing, like,
feel better.
I'd have anxiety. And then you track back and like, nah, there's no chance, there's no way in hell I could have even that jog. So he went out and jogged the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And even if Ian goes now and types up how to get rid of excess adrenaline in the body on Google, you will see one thing come up. There won't be 2, 3, 4, 5 ways of eliminating excess adrenaline in the body. You'll see one way. Not yoga, not meditation, not going vegan, not giving up alcohol. Number 1, cardiovascular exercise is the only way to get rid of excess adrenaline in the body. I had a big problem though. I had cardiophobia. I thought I was going to die of a heart attack.
You're going to have a heart attack.
How the fuck am I going to jog? So he was drilling me, trying to jog. Glenn, you need to jog. I'm thinking, yeah. I ain't jogging, that's for sure. And even if I was to jog, where am I going to go? My fucking local park, 2 seconds away. Anyway, here's where things really start hitting nail on the head. I'm 28 years old now. 28 is the year of recovery. 28 years of age. I'm dressed up, ready to go out. White shirt on, slacks, fresh haircut. My Mother's Day is happening. We have a meal booked 20 minutes away in a car. 20 minutes in a car. In fact, I'm going to say 15. And in my mind, I'm 50-50. Am I going? I was so last second. I was the last second guy, depending on how I feel. Here I am dressed, ready to go. All my brothers are waiting. Everyone's waiting. And cars pull up. And I just said, again, the lies kick in. I said, Mom, I'm actually going to wait for Paul just texted me saying he's going to come. Complete bullshit. Paul was my best friend at the time in Ireland. And I said, Paul's going to come with us. And everyone was like, all right, no problem, see you there. And my mum knew. My mum knew me to a T. Knew by the look in my eyes, knew everything. So off they went. And the minute that door closed, the emotion must have come in me after 10 years. I cried so much. I looked down, there was actually a puddle. And my golden retriever back home was trying to lick the tears I was kicking away. He thought it was a fucking water or something. There's so much snots everywhere, everything. I remember going up and just looking in the mirror and just thinking, what the fuck is this life? What I'm living in fear of heart attacks. Got stripped into got them clothes off, put me hoodie on, put my trainers on, put my shorts on. And I used to carry a bag with like a Xanax tablet in it. And in case, I never took them. The thing was like sawdust. If I tried to take it, it'd just blow away in the fucking wind anyway. It was there for so long. I had a book on panic attacks, a banana, and a bottle of water in my bag. So at this time, as you know, I can't go more than 3 miles from home. I jogged 8 that day.
Just up and back or circle, or would you just in your area?
Oh, no.
You broke through the 3 mile barrier. You took off.
Yeah.
Nothing to lose.
Something clicked at me that day, and I literally said, I do not care if I fucking die from a panic attack.
Because honestly,
I'm no longer.
I mean, you're a prisoner in your life anyway. You might as well, right? Like you're dead now.
Yeah.
You're just walking around dead. So might as well.
I'm slowly dying.
Yep.
I said no. I said I would rather go out. I'd rather go out as a warrior fighting from my life than to sit and crumbling away for even another couple of months. And off it went. There was tears coming down my eyes. I was passing people who knew me, trying to hide. And I remember making 5 miles from home and looking out at an area of sea, and I haven't seen in 6 years, Jay. And I thought, holy fuck. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm shaking.
Of course, yeah, it's
I
tough.
just want to go home.
Yeah.
I mean, I've behaved in a way for 10 years that told my amygdala that I just negatively reinforced it so much that says, what are you doing? Like, get the fuck home now.
Yeah.
I was like, no. Kill me. Give me the heart attack. Give me the seizure. Give me the stroke. Because I ain't fucking leaving. I ain't going home. I'm not retreating. And I remember I made the whole way around for the first time in my life. Did I die of a heart attack? No. And nothing changed. Nothing changed. I was so embedded. This was really deep rooted inside me, Jay. But I noticed for 5 minutes along that hour, I felt good. Something clicked. I don't know if it was the nature of the jog or the actual seeing something new. Maybe a combination of both.
A little bit of both, yeah.
But I knew something happened. And then I said to Sean, Sean, I want to go on that jog again. He said, but I'm scared. I'll go with you. 7 a.m. in the morning, be ready. Now, if this guy says 7, he doesn't mean 6:59. He doesn't mean 7:01. This is a 7 a.m. guy. 7 a.m. he's outside my house with his trainers on. And here I am jogging the same route. I said, Sean, fuck, I can't do it. I'm going to have a heart attack. He says, Glen, he stopped me. He says, Glen, he says, do you want another 10 years of this? Because I'm going to tell you out straight now. If you don't do this, you'll be stuck like that for another 10 years. Do you want that? And I was so used to like, it's okay, Glen. You're feeling anxious? We can go home.
Give up.
Not from him. Not from him. And that's what I needed in my life. No one ever spoke to me like that. Like, you want to fuck another 10 years of this? Okay, let's go home. You want to stay like this? No problem. And I was like, no, Sean, I don't. He says, come on. Tell me what thoughts are going through your head, but keep running. So here I am running. I'm like, Sean, I'm having the thoughts that I want to run into that person's house, knock at the door, and get them to bring me home in the car. He says, yeah, had those thoughts as well. Keep running. And I remember then we got through the jog again. I swear to God, this was only a 5 kilometer. It wasn't as long as I jogged the other day, but it was really early in the morning when people are dropping their kids to school and going to work. And I let out a roar as if I won a gold medal. I said, yes, had my arms spread. Because I got through a panic attack and I felt it subsiding.
Yep. You pushed
Next day, I go again. Sean, can you come with me? No problem. Sean came with me. He came with me. He came with me. I expanded my ears with Sean. And then I was left to do it alone. And doing it alone, the anxiety came again. Again, my mindset, I don't give a fuck. Kill me then. I'm not stopping. From the first day I jogged, I couldn't jog a half a kilometer and I was afraid of having a heart attack. In the 4th month, Jay, of consistently running, I jogged the Dublin Marathon.
Good Lord.
On the way home from the Dublin Marathon, in my uncle's car, I went on and I Googled flights to Paris. And I booked my flights to Paris. And I sent a screenshot to my girlfriend. I said, I'll see you this day next month. I'm getting on a plane. For the first time in 10 years since my panic disorder started, 5 months, I got on a plane for the first time.
5 months after that first run. A prisoner to fly through the air in 5 months.
10 years of the most crippling anxiety disorder that anyone could face. I called myself the 1%er. Those people that are in that 1% and feel that they can't escape. That's where I was. So if you're anyone that's going through this and you're a 1%er, don't you ever fucking give up. I swear to God, don't you ever give up. There's a way. Okay? So 5 months, that's the beauty of neuroplasticity. Okay? Think about that. How can someone overcome such a condition of 10 years, overcome and have a completely, and I mean zero anxiety. Anxiety came again in my life and I had a couple of panic attacks again
Sure, of
since
course.
nearly four years recovered. I've had a couple of panic attacks. Who gives a shit? You know? I'm not at home in Dublin living like a cage rat. I'm living in Paris for the past 2 years. I've been coming since 2019. It's a miracle, but it's not a miracle. It's science, and it's fear, and it's overcoming fear. And we're human beings capable of fascinating and amazing things in life. So 5 months, when I first started, I was terrified, couldn't even jog a half a kilometre. In the 5th month, I'm jogging around the fucking Eiffel Tower. I'll give you a funny story.
I was going to say, there's the last scene of your movie right there, man. You're talking about your movie earlier. There's your imagery. So tell me your story, but that's amazing.
If this is a funny story for people. So when you're having anxiety disorders and you're full of bullshit, everyone around you just thinks you're full of bullshit. Everyone close to you, my mom, like, she bloody adored me, loves me. Wish I wasn't like this. And I remember the day of my flight. I told you about the girl who was at the meditation with me. And she said, basically my head would look too big for my body. Her father helped me so much, and I trusted him a lot. So I asked, hey, his name is Ollie. I said, Ollie, can you drop me up at the airport? I'm going to have my first flight. He's like, no problem, meet you there. He drops us to the airport, and my mum went into work that morning. So I was up at, my flight was at 1 p.m. I got up at 6:30 a.m., jogged 20k, just to burn off that bit of adrenaline because I'm getting on a plane. Came back, got dressed, everything's good, I'm ready. And I still have a mindset of like, couldn't give a fuck if I die on the plane. I was going over to meet my girlfriend, who I've never seen before, never touched, never hugged, never kissed. But the last 4 years, I was in contact with this girl. She's literally in the kitchen next door, just right here. And she was absolutely just, like, imagine telling the woman, I don't work, I have no money, I can't get on the bus, I have anxiety disorder. And she says, I don't care. Basically, she's seen something. I don't know what she's seen in me still to this day.
I was gonna say, you can pull it off with a face like yours. That wouldn't work for me. I don't think I'd be able to pull that shit off. She'd be like, look, you get on the bus. So figure that
thank
out.
you, man. Thank you.
But listen, for real, Glenn, one thing, so psychologically, a lot of people we work with, we talk about this issue of kind of ownership and autonomy and basically like who's driving, right? Like, are you in the driver's seat or are you along for the ride? And for all those years, you were kind of along for the ride, and anxiety was driving. And anxiety is a thief. It was driving along, and it was stealing your relationships. It was stealing your future. It was stealing your jobs. It was stealing your peace of mind, how you felt. You were good friends with the paramedics, but other than that, it had given you nothing, right? But anything in life that you move towards, and in your case, run towards, you gain power over it, right? Anything you run away from gains power over you. And what's amazing about your story is for 10 years, you're running away and this thing's just eating up power. It's just gaining. But in months, you turn around, you face it, you say, literally in your head, you're saying, I don't care if I die. You're already killing me. So I'm going to die on my feet if I'm going to die. I'm not going to die on my knees, right? I'm going to die on my feet. And so you move towards it. And in 4 or 5 months, you're back in the driver's seat and you're calling the shots. Doesn't mean you don't ever feel panic. Doesn't mean you don't have those urges. Doesn't mean it doesn't live within you to this day. You know you're capable of that, but you're the one pursuing, right? You're not running from, you're running towards. And there's where all the power is. There's where all the autonomy is. It's an amazing example of that concept, So and how long ago was that? So that first run was how long ago from today?
So I came to Paris 17th of October 2019.
Yep.
It was my first time ever in Paris. I jogged the Dublin Marathon in September. And I'd say June.
Yeah.
I'd say May is when I started to kind of start those first couple of jogs. May, June, July, August, September, October, I was on the plane.
So 2-3 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you left, and Paris was, and you chose Paris because of the girlfriend. And was there other reason for Paris, or was it for that relationship?
Absolutely nothing.
Yep.
She could have lived in Germany. She could have lived in the States. She could have lived in I have a fucking dumpster for all I cared. I just wanted to go see her.
And you
Didn't
were
matter where
going.
she lived.
You were going.
I was gone, man.
Yeah.
I have a funny story to end on that, right?
Yeah, I want to hear
So
this. Yeah.
this guy has dropped me up. Ollie, love the man. Still to this day, great. 70 years of age, top, just the best, the business, like class. He drops me up, and I get out. Have you got everything? He says. I says, yeah, I have everything. Check me pockets. Fuck. I'm about to forget me phone. He says, Glenn, I can't drive back. You're going to be late. You're going to miss your flight. I said, can I use your phone? I knew my mom's phone off by heart, so I rang his phone. I was like, my mom's at work. I said, Mom, you're not going to be fucking late. I said, I'm about to forget my phone. Immediately, my mom's, now, I didn't know what she was thinking. In my mind, I need my phone here. I'm not thinking about not getting on a flight or anything like that. My mom thinks, oh, okay, you gave it a good shot, you know. She rings home. She rings my sister. Is Glenn's phone charging? My sister runs down. Yeah, his phone's here. He says, okay, I'm going to ring my auntie to come and collect you, to bring the phone up to the airport. Glenn forgot his phone. So then my auntie and my sister always thought, I didn't know this was happening. I only got told this as I came home from Paris a couple of days later. So my auntie comes up with the phone, parks up. I say goodbye to Ollie. He goes off. Obviously, I give my sister and my auntie a big kiss, a big hug. See you later. And off I go. They stayed outside the airport for 30 minutes, thinking I was in there like crying or fucking just waiting to come out. They realised I wasn't coming out. And it's a very short trip to Paris, so just an hour and 10 minutes maybe. So within 20 minutes of them, so they waited a half an hour, took around half an hour to go home. And then within 20 minutes while they were home, I send a picture into the group of me beside the Eiffel Tower with my arms spread like a fucking eagle. They thought I wasn't getting on that plane. I was willing to die on that plane, James. Jay. I was willing to, that was it. I put so much deep work. I didn't just say, oh, I'm getting on the plane today. I went through hell prior in my local areas to break all these patterns down, all these agoraphobic tendencies, all these things. I went through hell, panic attack after panic attack. But as you said, going towards a panic attack, willingly saying, I'm going to have one and I'm going to go through it, is psychophysiologically so much different compared to saying, waiting for it to come to you.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't happen today. Yeah.
Oh, I hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
I
scared.
said, what happened?
Bring it on. I'm ready. Yeah.
There's not. You think a panic attack scary? Try losing 10 years of your life. That's scary as fuck. So hope you don't mind me cursing on the podcast, by the way.
No, it's usually me doing all the cussing. I'm glad to have a partner. Yeah, no.
It's necessary. But so I remember getting off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Getting off that plane, and just meeting this girl for the first time.
And you earned that.
Magic.
You earned that flight.
Absolutely. Everything I have in my life now is earned.
That's right.
From the small little coffee shops that are literally 2 minutes away, you don't know how much someone like me appreciates that. And what does
life look like today? Are you still maintaining? Are you still running? Like how does it feel? How does it function? How does it work today?
Yeah, so I want to say to people out there that, like, I remember saying to a friend that had anxiety, I was like, yeah, just start jogging. He's like, but Glenn, I don't want to have to jog for the rest of my life just to get rid of anxiety. I was like, yeah, you need to make movements on this. You need to be proactive to a point. You don't need to run. You need to break down all the psychological barriers. You need to drop all your safety and avoidance behaviors. You need your nervous system to heal. And you need your amygdala. You need to positively reinforce that. So you need to get active. And then after that, you only need to jog. So what I did was, I ended up going like a year without jogging. And currently, I'm actually on a run streak. I've ran the run streak. You have to run to consider it a day of success. It has to be 1 mile a day. And I'm nearly on 2 years of running every single day. Why? Because I love it. Why? Because I love discipline. I'm not disciplined in all areas of my life. I eat like shit sometimes. I'm not as disciplined in the gym as I once was. My sleep isn't the best, but that's one thing I'm disciplined at is my jogging. So I still keep up to date on that. What else do I do? That's pretty much it. I mean, life is it was so normalized for me to just.
Do you work? I mean, is life full? You work. You've got a relationship. You leave the house.
Yeah, I have my own business now. I help people all over the world with overcoming agoraphobia. I talk to them on the phone and guide them through. And I have American clients, I have Australian clients, I have Irish clients, I have UK clients, I have Asian clients. I've worked with every client on the continent apart from, actually, I don't have Asian clients. I've never worked with a nation. Everything else. I have my own business now. From someone who was unemployed for 10 fucking years to now making an income that I never thought was possible. And I earned that too.
And you're still helping people. Just like you were helping your brothers and sisters, and just like you were helping your mom, and now you're helping other people. That's amazing. Yeah, you definitely should be. So I don't want you to give away the secrets because you have a business, but if somebody, if you're that guy that they knock on your door at 4 a.m. and they're having the panic attack, what are some of the concepts that you like to lean on? What are the key pieces of advice, or how do you get people started?
Yeah, great question. And obviously there's levels to the question. There's levels to who's knocking at that door. How long?
That's right. That's so key. I know where you're going. It's individualized, right? Like it's not one size fits all. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. That's great.
It is individualized, but there's certain things that you'd say to someone at any level of the disorder. There's certain key information that you tell. Number one, no one in the history of panic attacks has ever died of a panic attack. So what you're going through right in front of me with the shaking and the breathing, you're going to be absolutely fine. I say, how about let's phrase it, you're having an adrenaline surge. How about let's not use the word panic attack ever again for the rest of your life? What you're having is an adrenaline surge. Adrenaline is creating all these things. With high adrenaline comes catastrophic thoughts. With high adrenaline comes the shaking, comes the heart beating. Let's try not use the word panic attack. Let's get away from that. I mean, panic attack. What's attacking your body? Nothing. There's nothing attacking you here. This isn't here. This is to keep you alive. No one has ever died. So you'd say that to someone at all levels of panic or anxiety. That's number one. I'd say to everybody. That clicks with everyone, no matter how many you're in it for 6 months or 50 years. And what I would do then also, if someone comes to me, I say, okay, let's assess what you do from the moment you close your eyes to the moment you wake up. How was your day? And I'll go through a whole hour, 2 hours, like profiling, like, what do you do? What are your fears? What do you think is going to happen in panic? And what are your avoidance behaviors? We'll have a list of fears. I fear heart attack, I fear stroke, I fear seizure. And then I'll give them the medical evidence of why that can happen. And I'll basically go through this whole thing of what do you fear? What are your levels of avoidance? What are your safety behaviors? Where currently, if you have agoraphobia, where is your zone? Is it 1 kilometer? Are you housebound? Can you function normally where you can just go to work and you come home and you haven't flown? Like, where are you? So I'll assess that with each individual client and I'll break it down and I create a specific recovery plan for each individual and I'll work from there. And that's how I work with everybody. Each individual is different, but most of the components are the disorder is so damn identical.
Yeah.
It's so identical. Everyone has the same thoughts. Everyone has the same behaviors. And it might just vary minutely. That's the crazy thing about the disorder. If you're someone that's going through this and you're having these crazy irrational thoughts, I'm going to die. What if I do this? What if I turn the car off and go off this is so common. You have no idea. And for people to listen to this with high anxiety disorders, please trust me. As someone who's gone through this for 10 years, I have had every single thought that has gone around in your brain right now. Nothing will happen to you. But you have to be proactive. You have to get going. And I just create a recovery plan for these people. And I don't just create the recovery plan and say, there you go, do it yourself. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they get a call from me. They have my phone number. I check in on them and I make sure they're doing the work. Because if I don't, they're not going to do it.
Of course.
How do I know? Because the resistance to this disorder is like nothing I've ever experienced before. So if I'm not there to say, are you doing it? Did you do it yet? 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 Are you done? Are you done?
Yeah.
Not going to do it. So I'm a big believer in, as I go back to what Sean did for me, 7 a.m., at the gate. He was there. And that's what I do for people. Because I know that's the way out. I guide them. I don't give them a piece of paper and say, there you go. Here's what you have to do. Because they're not going to do it.
It's such an accountability piece. It in many ways, it functions like addiction. Not that anybody would ever feel like they're addicted to their panic, but the role that it plays in their life is so much like addiction recovery, in that you need the accountability piece, and action is so key. You know, one of the key phrases there is that you'll act your way into a different way of thinking a lot faster than you'll think your way into a different way of acting. Right. So it's like do it anyway. You know, it's like, I feel like shit. Good. Do it anyway. I feel great today. Cool. Then go do it. You know, well, I'm not really feeling today. Do it anyway. Right. It's what you do that will ultimately determine how you feel on the back end of it. But people have it flipped, and they almost want to be in a perfect state of mind before they even begin. Well, I don't quite feel like it yet, or I'm damaged, or I'm weak, so I can't get started. No, you have to get started because you're feeling damaged and weak. Now's the time. It won't reverse on thoughts alone. It's all based on action. And I really like what you said about reframing it from a panic attack to an adrenaline surge, because even by saying the word attack, I'm putting myself on defense. If I'm being attacked, I have to defend against that attack, right?
Exactly.
We got to get on offense here. You've got to get in the driver's seat. You've got to get proactive, like you said. And so if you say panic attack, you've doomed yourself to a life of defense, you know? And on brain scans, you know, panic and excitement look identical, almost to the point where the brain can't discern. It's almost like the stories we tell ourselves about the feeling are what makes the difference, because they look identical physiologically. So are you overexcited, or are you under attack from your panic? And which one would you like to deal with? So I think that's a brilliant reframe that you've come up with. And I bet that helps. I bet people really, when they can make that switch alone, of all the things you just described, if they can just flip it from understanding adrenaline surge versus panic attack, I bet you see a ton of progress based on that just by itself. I mean, that's so key.
I have these things called, I don't call it education session, I say re-education session. That's what I label my workshop as. Is we have a re-education session once a week, and it's because there's so much bullshit out there on anxiety. Trust me. And now I label it as re-education. All the stuff that you've probably heard in the past is probably absolute garbage. It's not my information, but I didn't think of any. This is from the best of the best in the world, the best cardiologists about the heart, the best neuroscientists. Ain't my work. I just combined it for people to help people, and put my own little twist on it for my own.
Sure, you know, from your own experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
You can personalize it because again, you lived it.
Exactly. I think Ian wanted me to touch on something as well in regards to the physical side of things. Like, as I said, I remember going down to I was sitting at the doctor's office and sitting on it wasn't a weighing scales, it was like this weighing chair. I sat in this chair, I'd never sat on before, and it was like it weighed my whole body. And I was in shock. I could not believe I was 59 kilograms. And I remember going into the gym while I was running, and I couldn't lift 10 kilometer. Like, I couldn't dumbbell bench press 10 kg on each side. And again, Sean kicked in. Sean's an absolute beast in the gym. Brings me down, trains me how to at a really high level. Like wow. Like, I even went to get qualified I'm a qualified personal trainer as well, back in Ireland as well. As I was doing that before I moved over here. So I got to a really, really, really athletic level, like the jogging and the cardio, and like, oh man, I was like 75 kilogram, almost like rack pulling, like over 300 kg on the rack pull. So really, really, I never thought I could be that person. And when I talk about demasculation, my God, I never thought I could feel so masculine all my life. And that what was made me like working out at the gym, where I could only go in and lift 10 kg, to then in literally less than a year to going from, I went to 168 pounds from 100, and I went to 75 kilogram, 59 kilogram to 75 kilogram in around 8 months.
Yeah. It's fast. Yeah.
It's fast, but because a lot of that was I lost that. So a lot of it was natural to put back on. Then I had to just kind of hard gain the rest of it. But, I did it right. I was eating 3,500 calories a day, so I had my appetite back. There was no cortisol and all these hormones eating away at my fucking metabolism.
Right. That
I was so
healthier
in
system.
tune.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just
natural.
felt like I felt just on top of the world. I never thought I could feel like that as a human being. Never. From where I got to, I was running every morning. Not every morning. At the time, I kind of stopped my cardio to focus more on the weights.
Yeah.
But I always kept my cardio going. Man, gets emotional even speaking about it. Some of what I've just spoken about tonight is like,
sure,
I can feel it in my heart, in my gut.
Because you got your life back. It's yours. Man, it's actually yours now.
Never in a million years you ever tell me that in 2019 I'd be living in Paris. That would give me, honestly, that would give me a panic attack.
I was going to say, it would have thrown you into panic to think you're that far away from home.
It would have.
Yeah.
It would have.
When's the last time you saw
crazy.
When's the last time you saw Mom?
When I was in Ireland last month.
Okay.
I've only returned to Paris 3 days ago. I spent a month in Ireland. I went on the 23rd or Christmas, 23rd of December, and literally came home 3 days ago. So I spent almost a month with her. Amazing.
Before that, how often do you see her now? Are you seeing her like every month?
I travel back every 3 to 4 months for at least 2 weeks. 2 weeks, yeah.
So I mean, we can talk about that too, right? Let's talk about a guy who couldn't go a day without checking in on Mom and making sure she was okay, and now you're going months at a time, and she's okay, and you're okay, and it's healthy. It's very healthy.
Yeah, it was a very codependent relationship there, that we broke.
Sure.
And it was hard. It was hard for her as well, But I remember the day I knew she was sad when I left. I was like, Mom. I remember having a conversation like, Mom, how are you feeling? Like, I know it's difficult for you. She says, Glen,
I bet she felt proud.
It's difficult. She said, I never forget what she said. This was like 2 years ago. I think I was like 6 months away at this time. And she knew this was a permanent move. And she's like, Glen, there's days I come home from work and I'm sad. And then I think back to where you were. I would rather you stay over there and never come home than to come home and be like the way you were. I'm so happy and I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, do I want you here? I'd love you to be here. But you're having a life experience right now. This is a life experience. And I want you to live up every damn minute. And that's where I started learning the word earned, because she's like, she didn't say deserved or anything like that. She said, you earned what you have now.
Yeah, I think birds are probably sad about pushing those babies out of the nest, but they know birds were meant to fly, And so you have to think about that. It's the same thing. Like a ship is safe in a port, but ships aren't made to be in ports. They're meant to be out at sea, and you're living your life. And you talked about, one thing as we wrap up here, I want to really touch on really quick is several times you mentioned about hitting bottom. And you said, when I couldn't go to this thing for my mom, that was my bottom. Or when I weighed a certain amount, that was my bottom. Or, when I was in the hospital X amount of times, that was my bottom. I think the concept of a bottom is valuable, but I also think we hit bottom, when we decide we've had enough, and it's time to act. And then that's your bottom, right? Like you look back and you go, no, that was the thing. That was the thing. But the reality is the thing was you deciding enough is enough. I'm going to take action, So your bottom was probably right before that run. Yeah, I've had it. I'm doing something. I'm taking action. I'm going on offense here,
This was eating my soul alive, Jay.
Yeah. And enough was enough. And congratulations. I mean, you say 10 years, and 10 years is not a short amount of time, but you got to understand, I mean, I've worked in this field for a long time. There are people who spend their entire life in the state that you described for that 10 years. So 10 years is more than enough. But kudos to you and congratulations to you, because you got healthy and you got in control at a very young age. There are people 50, 60, 70 years old who say, it started in my 20s. It started when I was a kid. And the insidious nature of anxiety and these other psychological disorders like depression and things of that nature is, if you let it, they'll take your whole life. They'll take your whole entire life. And I talk with my therapist all the time about how they do life-saving work, because in the emergency room, yeah, you do CPR and somebody comes back and that feels like, wow, I saved a life. But therapy and the work that you're doing, it's saving people from the life they would have lived without your help. And it's a sad, lonely existence sometimes that people will throw their entire life at. So, I mean, good on you for 10 years. That's a good start. That's a hell of a time. But to get control of your life in your 30s, it's a blessing, man. It's really a blessing.
Never. You could never ask me to change my life.
Yeah.
What I've learned in that.
Yeah.
And I can only look back and say learned now, because you don't notice these things when you're going through it. It's
no, you just feel like you're suffering.
Just in pain and
yeah, you're just suffering.
Yeah. Well, as I look back, I'm like, I learned so much.
And the fact that you take it and use it to help others is next level. You didn't just write a book and make a bunch of money, which you could do. I'd buy your book. I'd watch your movie. But you also use it on a daily basis to help other people. And that speaks a lot to your character, man.
Yeah, man.
That's the best.
You can't go through that. And I guess I was just kind of dead. I remember someone asked me to do something. I was like, no, why don't you want to talk to anyone? Don't even mention the word panic attack again to me. And here I am. And I love it.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. Glen, how do people find you? If they want to work with you, if they want to learn more about your story, if they want to follow your socials, how do they find you?
Everything's From Panic to Paris on YouTube, From Panic to Paris. On Instagram, From Panic to Paris. On TikTok, From Panic to Paris. As we do, we're trying to get on all these accounts and build our stuff. So
yeah,
keep it as the same name, From Panic to Paris, From Panic to Paris. That's it.
Nice. That's awesome. Glen, listen, man, you said earlier on we could talk for hours about this, and we definitely could. I appreciate you. I mean, we squeezed it into an hour and 20 minutes here, but we talked before the show about you're coming to America at some point. Let's do this in studio, man. I want you on the other side of this table here, and we'll dig into this in more depth and bring the girlfriend, and we'll talk about her perspective on all this and what it's like to watch somebody heal and be that inspiration. I'd love to hear her perspective on all this as well. So let's do that real soon.
Great idea. Never thought about that sort of things. You gave me some ideas for maybe
there you go.
Some up and coming reels or YouTube videos from the other side of things. Definitely, man. And we'll post your stuff, and Ian will get all your links into our episodes, and you can use this however you want, man. I'm grateful to have met you. I'm thankful that you came on the show, and I'm looking forward to the next time, man. We're definitely gonna do this again. It was a pleasure, man. Absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for just giving me the opportunity, and the warmness and loved it. Absolutely loved it. Thanks so much, man.
Keep running towards those problems, Glen. Don't run away from them. Keep running right towards them. Keep that streak alive.
Same for everybody. For everyone.
Yeah.
Go forward.
All right.
Go forward.
You're the man, Glen. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And then
Thanks
for you guys
so much,
at home, like I said, From Panic to Paris, you can check him out there. You've obviously, where you're watching our stuff here, you can look it down below. Look at all the links, follow the bio, anything you need to get more information on Glen's journey or through the rest of our episodes. I'm sure Ian will chop this up. You'll see us on our TikTok, on all of our socials. And we just appreciate Glen so much for stopping by. And to all you guys, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Thanks so much. Hey guys, although Through Help and Back is an excellent podcast with a lot of great ideas, I do want to let you know that in no way is Through Help and Back expected to be perceived as or relied upon in any way as specific medical advice or mental health advice for you personally. The information provided through Help and Back on our website or our podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment that can be provided by your own providers. Do not use our content in lieu of professional advice given by qualified medical professionals, and do not disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking professional advice because of the information you have read on our website, heard on our podcast, or otherwise received from us. Although we love discussing issues related to healthcare, mental health, and addiction, we are not providing direct healthcare, mental health care, medical, or nutrition therapy services. We're not attempting to diagnose, treat, prevent, or cure in any manner whatsoever any physical or psychological ailment, any mental or emotional issue, disease, or condition. We are not giving you specific medical, psychological, or religious advice whatsoever. Please take care of yourself and take care of others as you always seek the advice of your own medical providers and your own mental health providers regarding any questions or concerns you have about your specific health, or before implementing any recommendations or suggestions from us. These are ideas that have worked for other people. We think it's important to share them. We do not guarantee that they will work for you specifically. Do not stop taking any medications without speaking to your physician, nurse practitioner, physician assistant, mental health provider, or any other healthcare or medical professional. And if you have or suspect that you have a medical or mental health issue, contact your own healthcare provider promptly. Also, one last thing, if you know or suspect that you are currently experiencing a crisis, it is absolutely imperative that you seek the advice of your doctor or other emergency healthcare services prior to ever thinking about using our content. We love the conversations. We're glad you're stopping by. We hope you take a lot from the content. But again, for your specific individual medical situation, please always seek quality personal care from your own providers. Do not let this information or this advice stand on its own. Thanks so much for listening.